4 years ago, they were crying because they couldn't afford their student loans. It's kind of strange, because if you're an expert in finance and you got college educated on finance, wouldn't you think you could take care of your finances in your own house?
I don't know, shouldn't you be able to handle your own finances without constantly relying on Dems to give you handouts and bail you out? Recognize this guy? This is a perfect example of why people make FAFO content. This is a perfect example of why regret is not the same as redemption. You may remember this guy from a video where he was crying about losing his farm because he spent a bunch of money he didn't have because he was banking on receiving certain subsidies that he was promised thanks to the Biden admin. And then when Trump got into office, the guy he wanted, and put a freeze on all the aid that was going out, including the aid going to American farmers like himself, he suddenly had a problem with the whole endeavor. People, of course, understandably dragged him, made a bunch of FAFO content, and then he came out and asked people to stop, kicking him while he was down, that he was here to listen and to learn, and that he didn't know about all this Project 2025 stuff. He'd had the wool pulled over his eyes. But now he's in pain. He's afraid for his farm. He's willing to hear people out. In fact, it sparked a conversation where people were saying, let's embrace these people who are regretting their choices and let's speak to them because clearly they want to learn. I'm not going to say that everyone who has regrets doesn't want to learn. What I'm saying is that having regrets does not mean that someone has learned. Having regrets about doing something that would harm a lot of people simply because you're now being harmed, that's not a lesson. You're still operating completely out of self-interest. You have not learned anything. So what happened? Well, a bunch of people who have been pushing against this administration and all the havoc it has been wreaking, all the destruction it is causing, sued the admin over those frozen funds and successfully got those funds unfrozen, at least temporarily. So this learning and listening farmer got his funds released. Now he's fine. What do you think? Did he learn a lesson? Nope. He's now back to going after everyone else. He's now back to not listening to people when they're explaining how tariffs are going to harm the economy. For example, he's now making fun of people who took out student loans. If they're bad with their finances, what are you, dude? What are you? What is your farm if it cannot exist or survive without Dems bailing it out all the time? Yeah, when things get bad for you again, no one's going to be fooled when you claim to be listening and learning. Next time it's time for you to find something out, we're going to know. If you're not out there working to undo the harm that you caused, I'm sorry. Your regret is not redemption.
I need to know if you saw a buried report that Texas overnight has nobody working their fields. They ramped up their ice raids, which Florida and Texas have been doing for months. This is not new, but their farms right now, nobody has shown up to work. They have animals in danger of dying, of getting sick because they don't have the workforce. And I saw another creator about 2 weeks ago say this is why they just ramped it up in California, especially in California, because they're trying to crash our economy, which is apparent. It's part of Project 2025. If everybody's hungry, if everybody's poor, if everybody's starving, we're easier to control. So, good luck.
So a majority of farmers in Iowa voted for Trump, even though last time around his trade war started other countries growing grain like Argentina and Brazil, Japan. Many of them are growing their grain and doing trade with other countries as well as growing their own cattle, pigs and cows, right? So last time, those trade wars cost us, taxpayers, billions of dollars in subsidies to the farmers because they were losing money. So it's happening again. Shocking. And some of those farmers are starting to speak up. I just saw in the Des Moines Register today, it cost us, $48 billion in costs to our farmers. The thing about that is, all it does is put the small farmers out of business. And then J.D. Vance, who has Ag Trader or whatever it's called, I don't know what it's called. But anyway, they are buying up distressed farms and then selling them to big corporations. Where I live, I have an acreage, which means I have a home and some land that isn't farmable. The back 10, I guess, is I have hay and some one farmer is growing some crops back there, but we don't farm. All around us is corporate owned land. Like the property still may be in the name of the original owner, but corporate ag rents or uses this land to grow crops, or they buy it up and grow crops. And the people that do that don't even live here in Iowa. I know many people don't understand that. They fly over in your airplane, you look down at the little squares, circles, whatever, and think, oh, look at that beautiful farmland owned by Americans. Some of this land's owned by China. Right? So we have to think about these things. I hope the farmers continue to speak up. I don't know that they will, but the American people should know that this land all around us is being bought up by corporations that don't even farm the land. They pay people to come here and farm it, which, okay, maybe creating jobs, I don't know. I think many of the farmers that I know love what they do. There just isn't another whole generation of people that want to farm. They have to do something else for a living because farming is very, very, very tricky and risky. So you have to love to do it, right? Some of the people have it in their blood. But let's think about these things. I know we're getting over almost to 4 minutes here and people don't want to listen to it all. But the reality is most of that farmland you're flying over isn't owned by little farmers. It's owned by big ag. Big corporations that pay other people to farm it and reap the benefits and also get that subsidy money. Small farmers are getting checks for $800 when they put $1 million into their property or whatever. So these big ag companies are getting millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for farming because that's why they do it. They get the money from that grain. There's really no risk for them because they're going to get subsidies to back it up. So it doesn't matter if it floods or it doesn't rain or hail comes in because you know what? They're insured. That program was put in place for our family farmers, not for big ag. They're taking the risk away from them. So think about it.
A lot of people effed around and now they're finding out. And no group of people is going to find out more quickly than farmers because they're really going to get screwed. With the cutting of this USAID program, they're really going to get hit hard because what was that program or is that program that is not being operated as it's supposed to be because of Donald Trump giving complete control of the federal government to the billionaire who bought him, Elon Musk. Anyways, what was the purpose of that? The purpose was to provide humanitarian relief around the world. And a big part of that was providing food to desperate people around the world. And what we did through that program is purchase a lot of agricultural products produced by American farmers and then distribute those products around the world. Now that money is being withheld illegally, but it's being withheld.
I am Fikazo. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Thank you so much for always come back to watch our video. If you are new here, please don't go without subscribing and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Now, today we're talking about our dear brothers, our dear farmers. We love them, okay? They are the most important people in our society. They are the most valuable people. They are the people we should appreciate for what they do because they do a great job. So there is also MAGA farmers, okay? These very farmers who supported DT, who trusted DT. Now, right now, as we speak, farmers are facing, a harsh reality in their daily life right now because of what they did. So they voted against their own interest. Now, these farmers, they really trusted the guy. They really give their trust to the guy, and they are saying the guy have disappointed them. Okay, which we always discuss, because these are very important people. If we don't have farmers in our society, it's not gonna be easy for people to get food. So that's why we always appreciate and we always try to share the information so that people can learn and they see the way they can correct their mistakes or they can, correct their ways. Right now, as I speak, farmers, they are blaming everyone else. Right now, as we speak, farmers are blaming anyone else. They are even blaming themselves because what they did. But some of them, they've never learned any lesson. That's why we always say that these farmers might also do the same thing as they did back in the days. So they might also, vote against their own interest. They might also do the same as like the way they did. So that's why we always want to push this so that, people can learn and can know exactly what they did because they did wrong. The reason why they did wrong is because they did things that is affecting them. Because if it's not affecting them, we're not supposed to be here just to say they did wrong. And we're not supposed to be here to judge them. Because they were benefiting from what they did. But right now as we speak, they are not benefiting from what they did, but they are suffering because of their actions. They are suffering because of their choices. Yes, some are losing, government support. Others are losing, their market. And also some are losing their lands. Generations, lands, those lands they got from their ancestors. So it means these farmers, some of these farmers have never learned their lesson. The slap they got, it haven't done anything in their life. Because some still believe that DT is gonna change or is gonna do what they were dreaming. Some, they've never learned a lesson. Some still believe that, it's going to be good. It's going to be good, of course. It will be good. And it might also change. But one of the people that are suffering in the United States are the farmers right now. Because they are not certain of their future. They are not sure what's going to happen. So many farmers in the US, we know that they support, DT, okay? But we've seen also a growing evidence and reports that some are experiencing regret due to the economic consequences of policies they once backed. So they lost many things to the extent they started regretting. It was even almost 200 days when the guy it was even almost 200 days of the guy in the office, and people started, questioning and regretting their choices they've done in less than 100 days. So they lost the export market. We already seen that. We've seen the imposition of tariffs on goods, from the countries like China, Canada, and Mexico. They led to retaliatory tariffs on American agricultural products. The major buyer of soybean, pork, and other commodities of, U.S. agriculture product, shifted its purchases to other countries like Brazil and Argentina. We've seen that. So even that alone can affect a lot of number of farmers. That small part, of China shifting their markets to other countries like Brazil and Argentina have affected some farmers. But they never learned a lesson. They still think that things, or they can't even, still vote against their own interest. they can still do the same as the way they did. So that's the farmers, man. So the plummeting demand and prices for their crops and livestock due to tariffs directly impacted farmers. Bottom line, many faced substantial financial losses and farm bankruptcy. We've seen about Nebraska. So we've seen what happened to Nebraska. People are worried about Nebraska to go bankrupt. We pray that it may not happen because these are the farmers. They are the important people in the society. But they were expecting that they might go bankrupt. It might happen. You never know. So they might lose their farms. So they have the uncertainty and instability in them because they don't know what's going to happen. Because if there is tariffs and other things that is going to affect them, so even if you are a farmer, you're going to have uncertainty. You're unsure of what's going to happen. You're unsure of what DT is going to do. He's their favorite person, but he do things they don't know, and they never expected such things to happen. They never expected that it is going to affect them. For them, they thought, oh, it's going to punish China. We voted to punish China. China is going to be punished. That's what they thought. But they never thought that things will turn around and come to them. So that's why right now they have the uncertainty and the instability. And we've seen also some asking for bailouts, like the way they usually do. Okay? When things go wrong, when things go in the way they never expected, they ask for bailouts. They request for bailout government to bail out them. So those are the farmers, man. That's why they blame everyone else. And they still think that, the guy, is doing things we've never expected. Tell me in the comment section, what do you think about, the farmers? Because we've seen the cuts and federal agricultural program, like the aid. Government have cut the aid to the farmers, and some started, suffering. We've seen the freeze of USD programs. Okay, USD usually help many farmers, but they freezed. Okay, they reduced the food aid purchase. Okay, so it was also reduced and broken contract for conservation and renewable energy. Okay, all those things have been cutted from these farmers. They were happy before. They were enjoying their life. They were enjoying their farming life. Farming life is so fun. It's so enjoyable when you have that support. So they were just enjoying. But they are the one who caused all those things to them. They are the one who caused all those problems to them. Now they are the one who are facing the reality, who are facing, who are facing the disaster of the things that is going to happen to them. So those are the farmers, man. Some farmers have openly admitted to not fully researching. So it means what they did, they've never done enough research so that they can know exactly what they're doing. So these farmers, they voted to deport people. They voted to deport immigrants. They voted, to punish China. They voted a lot of things which affect them in big numbers. So please don't blame everyone else. Just blame yourself for what you did, because it's you guys who did it. No one have done it on your behalf. All right, guys, tell me what do you think in the comments below. Let's keep our conversation down there. Tell me what do you think about the farmers who are blaming everyone else, who are, really thinking that DT have fooled them.